From a mad gorilla to a team of vengeful dogs, plus a savage beheading. Here are 10 times animals got revenge on humans. Number 10. Gorilla Revenge. There's nothing as classic as the tale of the gorilla that attacked the zookeeper. This particular incident happened at Lincoln Park Zoo after an apparent failure in safety protocols resulted in an intern zookeeper being stuck inside of the outdoor gorilla exhibit with the animals still inside. According to zoo officials, the incident was human error, but nobody is sure if the woman who was attacked or one of her colleagues is to blame. The intern zookeeper was not horribly injured, but the 16-year-old gorilla named Quan definitely got a few good hits in. He shoved the woman down, showed her who's boss, and then mounted her back as if the gorilla were going to ride her like a donkey. Whether this was an act of vengeance or simply the alpha gorilla asserting himself over the female zookeeper, nobody can say for certain. The intern received a puncture wound on one side of her back from where the ape probably bit her, and she twisted her ankle. But apart from that, she managed to get away with her life. And that's more than I can say for a lot of the unfortunate victims in today's video. Number 9. Tiger Vengeance. Siberian tigers are not animals you want to mess with. You definitely don't want to make a Siberian tiger so mad that it literally hunts you down and gets its revenge. But that's exactly what happened when Russian poacher Vladimir Markov shot and wounded a tiger during a hunt back in 1997. This went down in the far east of Russia. And to really salt the tiger's wounds, after shooting it, Markov stole the remainder of the tiger's kill. But don't worry, the wounded tiger never forgot. He circled back and hunted the poacher for somewhere between 12 and 48 hours, ultimately tracking Markov back to the isolated cabin where he lived. Luckily for Markov, he wasn't home when the tiger showed up, but the tiger was still in the mood for vengeance. The tiger destroyed everything it could find in the guy's cabin. And if you think that's where the story ends, you're wrong. The tiger straight up sat and waited for Markov to get home. Then, he ate him. And that's where the story ends. Have you ever been bitten by an animal? Maybe scratched by a cat, bitten by a snake, or even a dog? Or have you been stung by a jellyfish? Let me know about your experience with a vengeful animal in the comments below. Then be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, so you can stay up to date with all the latest awesome videos right here on American Eye. Number 8. Octopus Revenge. Animals of all kinds are able to get their revenge on humans. There's no better example of instant revenge than in a recent viral video in which a Chinese internet personality was attacked by what she thought was about to be her dinner. Not only is this incident of revenge a little frightening, but it's absolutely hilarious. If you've ever journeyed to the East, you may have witnessed people eating animals that are still alive, particularly octopuses. As the girl tried to stuff the still-living octopus into her mouth, it had other ideas. It lashed out with its tentacles and stuck onto the girl's face, causing her to freak out and begin screaming for help. Once it was latched onto the girl's face, there wasn't much she could do except struggle to get it off. She did eventually manage to pry it off, but she was left with a bit of damage across much of her face. Unfortunately for the octopus, its explosion of vengeance would be the last thing it ever did before it met its ultimate fate. Still, there's nothing quite as funny as watching someone's dinner attack them back. Number 7. Leopard Revenge. The next story is significantly less humorous. As reported by the Daily Mail, a leopard snatched and ate a 3-year-old toddler at a lodge in Queen Elizabeth National Park. This happened back in 2018, and so far as the story goes, the leopard snatched the child as he followed his nanny outside. Staff immediately tried to intervene, but it was too late. The leopard was lightning fast and managed to drag the child into some nearby bushes to have itself a little snack. A search was mounted right away, but the leopard was long gone and the search party found the remains of the boy the next day. While this is obviously not a story about vengeance against the child, it may very well have had something to do with the park ranger. The son that was eaten belonged to one of the rangers at the park, and it's entirely possible that the leopard had some kind of grudge against the ranger, and rather than attack the adult, it decided to steal the ranger's baby. In the wild, babies are basically free food, and given that it's an animal, I doubt the leopard had much remorse about it. Number 6. Crow Revenge. It's fairly common knowledge that crows are extremely intelligent, but new evidence shows that crows can not only recognize human faces, they can also remember them and spread the word to other crows when there are humans lurking about that aren't very nice. Check out what happened in this experiment. Researchers in Seattle trapped and banded crows for about 5 years, And through those 5 years, they learned that those birds never forget a face. Even after a full year without seeing the human that captured them, the crows can still recognize them on sight. Once the crows recognize one of the people who trapped them, they'll cackle, swoop, and dive bomb in huge mobs of 30 or more. What this means is that when one bird is wronged by a person, they tell all their friends about it. And when that person comes back, the entire murder of crows attacks them. This is according to a professor of wildlife science at the University of Washington, who was actually an occasional victim of crow attacks during his research. Not only does a single crow seek revenge on a human who wronged it, but it also passes the knowledge of dangerous humans to its peers and to its young. There might not be another animal on the planet that can hold a grudge quite like a crow. Number 5. Camel Revenge. The story of camel revenge is one of the most brutal and yet the most satisfying. A few years ago, during a heat wave in Rajasthan, India, a man left his camel outside tied up in the blistering heat all day so that it couldn't move. As you can probably imagine, this would be extremely aggravating for any animal. Imagine if someone tied you up by your legs and left you sitting in the hot sun for hours. You'd be mad too. But don't worry, when the owner came back, the camel finally got its revenge. The animal was so angry that when the owner went outside and untied the camel, it became extremely aggressive and attacked him mercilessly. According to the local villagers, the camel went so far as to bite off its owner's head. The camel literally opened its mouth and chomped off the guy's head. Imagine how angry you have to be to bite someone's head off literally. It's simply unthinkable. But don't let this make you afraid of camels. According to the report from the Daily Mail, camels are actually very gentle creatures and don't typically become aggressive with humans. The issue in this story is that the camel was abused, and it's not stupid enough to let something like that slide. Number 4. Antarctic Bird Revenge. In Antarctica, there are birds known as skuas. While vastly different from crows, skuas do share one important aspect. They have great memories, and they can remember a face. In a new study published in the journal Animal Cognition, researchers say these Antarctic birds have been caught attacking researchers who had previously come too close to their nest. The scientists who had been victimized by these birds were in Antarctica examining the nests once a week and recording their observations. That's all they were doing. But soon, once they began their weekly observations, the adult skuas appeared in the sky like warbirds. And please, keep in mind that skuas are not crows. These birds have huge wingspans that are over 5 feet, 1.5 meters, and an attack from one can prove fatal. Once the investigators realized what was going on, they began to make notes. According to Mental Floss, the researchers figured out that between 3 or 5 visits to a bird's nest resulted in getting put on the bird's hit list. After that, you were never safe for as long as you were in their territory, because they can identify you from the sky, and they would come down with their talons ready to scoop out your eyes. And don't even try to wear a disguise. The research showed that even when the investigators all wore very similar clothing, the birds could still pick out which human they didn't like simply by their face. These birds are truly incredible, and the last thing you want to do is disturb one of their nests. Number 3. Buck Revenge. There's no sweeter vengeance than when a hunter is attacked by their prey. Animals that are cornered or threatened are extremely dangerous, no matter if it's a cow, a tiger, or a hedgehog. Even a simple deer can become a killing machine. A guy named Randy from Missouri figured this out real quick and was lucky that he got away with his life. It happened after Randy thought he had made a lethal shot on a buck that he'd been hunting. He fired his gun, the animal went down, and Randy went to go investigate. But when Randy got close to the trophy buck, the unthinkable happened. Randy first noticed that the buck's tongue was hanging out and there was blood seeping out of its nose. And because of this, he assumed it was dead. But when he approached, the buck fired into action, pushed the hunter onto his butt, and tried to impale Randy with his massive horns. Randy was sure lucky that he managed to fight back, as he did eventually get away from the wild animal. He was left with a giant gash across his head and blood pouring into his eyes. Plus, he was a little shaken. But thinking quickly, Randy grabbed his rifle and quickly fired 2 more rounds into the buck before going to the emergency room. This is just another example of when the hunter becomes the hunted. Number 2. Dog Revenge. Dogs are man's best friend, until of course they're abandoned and starving. A news story out of Jakarta, Indonesia describes how 7 dogs were abandoned inside their owner's house for 2 weeks without any food or water. This is a pretty horrendous thing to do regardless of where you live or what your customs are. No animals should be left to starve to death, never mind 7 of them. Dogs are loyal, friendly, adorable, and they don't deserve that kind of treatment. But just wait until you hear what happened next. When the world's worst dog owner returned from their holiday back to their starving animals, the dogs got their revenge. A guard from the neighborhood got curious after spotting the man's luggage sitting in front of his house several days after the man arrived back home. It was when the guard approached the guy's house that he realized something was wrong. It smelled really horrible, and so he panicked and called the police. What the police found inside the house was the owner of the dog's head in the kitchen and his body at the front of the house completely ravaged by his animals. The police also found the bones of 2 other dogs which had likely been at the lower end of the food chain and eaten by the hungry canines before the owner came home. This particular dead guy was reportedly from an area in Indonesia known as Sulawesi Island, in which it's not uncommon for the local diet to consist of dogs, bats, and forest rats. While local diet may consist of dogs in this place, it looks like these dogs put human on the menu first. Number 1. Cow revenge. We eat so many cows every year that it's about time one of them finally got its revenge. This happened a few years ago back in the Muslim celebration of Eid al-Adha, in which sheep, cows, and goats are slaughtered in staggering numbers over a period of 4 days to commemorate the sacrifice by the Prophet Ibrahim. But one guy didn't get to have any fun during the festivities. A Palestinian man was in the middle of trying to slaughter a cow when it got spooked and ended up slaughtering the man instead. Apparently, this actually happens quite a bit because rather than hiring a professional butcher, people who have no idea what they're doing decide to slaughter the animals themselves. In the middle of trying to butcher his cow, this guy was trampled to death. And then the cow ran off, trampling at least 3 more people and seriously injuring them before finally being captured several hours later. As an interesting side note, it was reported that during the same festival, 150 people were hospitalized with knife wounds and other serious injuries from trying to slaughter animals. Say what you want about humans, but I'm afraid that there's an unlimited budget for stupidity among our species. Which of these revenge stories is the best case of instant karma? Let me know how you feel in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you again soon for another amazing video on American Eye.